Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday evening. It is 9 o'clock. Time for a Tuesday night blether. But first, as always, a little music. Enjoy.
We are all the heirs to Scotland, as a nation proudly stand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. To the world we bid a welcome in 1,000 different ways. We will toast to long lost friendships as we build our better days. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. We are all the heroes of Scotland. We're a nation hand in hand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum.
Hi there, folks. I hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all enjoying a bit of decent weather wherever you live. And I shall look out, I shall keep my eyes looking out treble M for that letter. I'm assuming because you put it in the chat, we are not talking about an email. You're talking about an actual handwritten letter on paper. I assume. It's good, pleased to hear it. Hope you're all doing well. Well, it's been not too bad here today and yesterday. Dry, bright, sunny, no real warmth though. But that's okay. Hey, Gavin, hope you're doing all right there, my friend. Bearing the Brand. Good evening, Bearing the Brand. I hope you're doing all right. A handwritten note. Okay. I shall keep an eye open for that, Triple M. And we will deal with that when it arrives. You can never tell when that will be, regardless of the stamp you put on it. No, you're definitely right about that. It is cold at night. We've had the heating on at night. Absolutely. Good evening, Jojo. It has been surprisingly cold at night. Even when we had a bit of warmth during the day. 2 first-class stamps. You're taking no chances there. No chances, Treble M. I'm sure it'll arrive in good time. The main thing, it arrives safely. That's the main thing. So, I hope you all had a good weekend. It was a usual quiet weekend here. My sister is back from Spain. I'm usually wearing a t-shirt and shorts at this time of the year, says Hashtag. Not my mode of dress, I must say. The only time I never wear t-shirts. I never have worn t-shirts. And the only time you would ever see me with shorts on would be when I would be in Spain on holiday. And that would be it. But I've never liked t-shirts as a garment. I just don't like them. My son wears them all the time, of course. Good evening, Rory. Yeah, well, the weather has been reasonably decent. Not brilliant, not what we'd like, but yeah, it was okay. Well, if it was Treble M, it certainly was in this part of the country. It must have been further north. But similarly, for it to be dry here is a step forward. It's a big improvement. We take the small blessings that we get. So, as I say, if there's been snow, it's either it'll be on the higher country. But certainly no snow here, thank goodness. Thank goodness for that. So my sister Alison is back from Spain. She's back from Spain minus her suitcase. It somehow got separated from her plane, and I'm sure it will show up, of course, but for the moment she's a little anxious about it. Because all her stuff's in it, of course. But never mind. I'm sure it'll show up probably tomorrow. So apparently there's a bit of a dispute going on in the island of Mallorca. The people who deal with deck chairs and umbrellas and such like are in dispute with local authorities. Apparently, from what I can gather, is they're trying to put the. Yeah, she had a good holiday. I'm just about to say that the the local folk are in dispute with the local the council who run the island. Um, they want to increase the tax or the license, it might call it, for putting deck chairs on the beach and umbrellas. And the local traders are in dispute over this. So Alison was saying that there was not a deck chair on the beach, nor a brolly, nor anything else. And I did I saw a bit of film about it on YouTube. It didn't go into why, just said that they were in dispute. But she and her pals had a really good time, of course. It's relaxing. You don't get up to very much, Do a bit of shopping, prowling about, couple of drinks, nice food. The usual thing that people do when they're on holiday. Well, you would get that impression, that they don't want the tourists there, but they do, of course. As I say, it's the usual, councils trying to rake in more money. Good evening, Robert. Nice to see you here, sir. 9 o'clock already again, yeah. And there's William. Somebody was saying there was a bit of snow here. And there's, oh, David William, son of Larn. And how's life treating you? Been bad weather here last week. So, but clears towards the end of the day, certainly getting colder. Had 3 French Navy boats hanging about on the loch last few days as well. The hell was that all about? Why would the French Navy be here? It's an odd one. So now that she's back, I'm going to try and get Alison, of course, and PBC on the one live stream. I think that would be good. Well, I bet you're a lot happier, David, that's for sure. a lot happier, healthier as well. No doubt about that. Healthier. So I'm going to try and get the two of them on at the one time. And whenever Joni Rotten shows up in the chat, I'll try and get hold of her email address so I can have her as a guest as well. So, but I can't do anything about that until she shows up in the chat. But I shall do my best to get the other two. Well, I know Alison, obviously. And PBC, I think that would be a very interesting live stream. And Alison's got a lot to of information that I want all of you to hear, or as many of you to hear. Uh, because it seems to be that in Inverclyde, there's a lot of things that go on that don't seem to go on anywhere else. And I find that most disturbing. Can't answer that, why that should be the case. David is saying, put on a bit of weight because of the great food and beer, been indulging a bit too much. But we love it here. That's great. We are very lucky to live somewhere so beautiful. Truly feel blessed every day. Well, we should all be living that way, shouldn't we? Really? And of course, you've already been through a winter, so you know what it's like. It's something everybody, well, not everybody, but something a lot of people do dream about is the idea of living in a rural situation. I know my late wife and I used to dream a lot about that. And we went looking for it, I might add. We did go looking for it. We could never find it in our price range. That was the problem, the cost. Yeah, I know you're in a bit of a shithole there, Treble M, for many different reasons, tangled up there. William, I watched two cracking films the other night, says William. Black Rain and The Last Castle. Both worth a watch. Seen both of them. Seen the two of them, William. Yeah, yeah, they are good. I would recommend them too. So you've got Netflix, have you? David, yes, winters are quite fair here because it's on the Gulf Stream. Palm trees growing here. Yeah, class as a temperate rainforest. Yeah, we have that here as well, believe it or not, David. I don't know if you've been on the River Clyde, but we have them. Black Rain. If it's the film I'm thinking of, Anglo, it's Morgan Freeman. If I've got to say the right film. No, Treble. David's up in Loch Fyne, where you get beautiful, beautiful fish, beautiful salmon. Am I correct, William? Am I correct about the film Black Rain? Is that the one? Is that the right film? Spent years in shitholes and really bad housing, so know how lucky we are. Part of the reason I still fight for the for other and my kids and grandkids. Yeah, what's that? You mean there 3 years now, David? Is it 3 years? Yeah, I'm sure it must be 3 years at least. Now you've been there. Yeah, well, I've seen that. I've just got the wrong film. William. Michael Douglas is the main character. He gets caught. Uh, Azuki gang war, Japan. 2 years is it, William? Hey, good films. Good films. Did you watch Colossus? Have we turned you into a movie buff, William? Is that it? Oh, that's an old one, though. That, that's an old movie. He hasn't made a few for a while. Too busy making money somewhere else, no doubt. He, he bought up a good part of Mallorca, sad to say. The last castle is Robert Redford. Again, if I've got the correct film. I'm sure that's the one. Fairly modern film, certainly compared to The Black Rain. I really stopped going on to Netflix, to be honest, folks. I don't know, he hasn't appeared yet. I hope he's all right. I hope he didn't get himself into any trouble. Patton's a good movie, John, says Anglo. Recently deleted by YouTube. My God. Ridiculous. I mean, it's not that controversial, really. Yeah, that's the film. Yeah, good movie. I've seen that Anglo Patton. Not popular, like general. Not popular at all with the upper echelons of the USA. They weren't happy about his conclusions. It was a bit. It's just unfortunate that he was so late in arriving in Europe. That's exactly it, Hasdak. We the wrong, yeah, that's right. George Patton. We were fighting the wrong people. He was one of the ones that wanted to rearm the German army and start pushing the communists back. The French election. Le Pen. Well, the first thing we have to say is there's been a general move to the right in Europe. That's got to be a good thing. Not exactly what we want, but it's a start. What concerns me is look what happened in Italy when they supposedly voted in a right-wing female president. I should say straight away, I don't think women should be in politics. He did indeed, Rory. He did indeed. Probably his family own those guns now. It's an image you built up, of course. My partner thinks she will never get in because they think of women differently there, like inheritance. They can't inherit, goes to the males in the family. No, I didn't know that, David. That's interesting. Well, has that? I would say that that particular viewpoint um, is in absolutely alignment with my late mother. She always said that. I would say that also, but it wouldn't be very popular as a leader of a political party to say that. But my dear mother always said that women had no place in politics because they didn't know anything about it, she would say, and they shouldn't be there because they don't think with their heads, they think with their emotions. And there you have it, summarised by Treble M. Maloney talked the talk, but isn't going to walk the walk. Women don't like confrontation, says David. Always try to mediate. Sometimes that won't work. I think there's a lot of truth in that. Oddly enough, folks, I have a video here on this very subject. Not about politics, but about so-called woke women. So let's have a listen.
CEO puts entire company at risk.
As I always talk about the demonization of, women who choose to stay at home.
There is nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mom. We love them around here. It's other women that demonize this behavior, not men.
Demonization of housewives, the demonization of women who make a different choice than what is considered the acceptable choice of the modern feminist movement. And not every woman is going to want to be that CEO or enter the workforce. Some of them want to devote themselves to being a wife and being mom.
Yes.
Why do we have to disparage them because they're making a different choice than what a lot of women make in this day and age? Why? Why can't
because misery loves company, and these women are out there working really hard. These feminist, independent boss babes are out there working really hard just to live a normal life. And they realize that paying for everything is played out. But the thing is, they can't go find a man because they do not qualify for these men. So therefore, they want you to be alone as well. Remember, misery always loves company.
just fight that reflex, because we all have it, right? I mean, Rollo Tomasi says we're all kind of raised in the feminist age, and hence we kind of have a little bit of that lens.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that he's right on that in many respects, because I even have to check myself sometimes, because it's almost like you're programmed to react a certain way, and it just starts coming out of your mouth and you're like, wait, no, that doesn't make any sense. You really have to kind of deprogram all of that stuff and look at stuff for what it actually is.
We live in a world where women are demonized and targeted for wanting to be housewives and raise their families.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, the media and popular culture will have you believe that being at home in comfort, raising children, caring for their families, and being okay with the husband leading the family is oppression.
Facts.
But then we have girl
Paying the shot.
boss women CEOs who are ruining companies.
David says, I proved it at the local school meeting to my partner. They've closed the dam. They have closed it down because not enough children of that age in the village. The council failed to inform the village, put a notice up in Loch Gilphead.
An iconic American eatery stock has plummeted in recent weeks after the company
There you go. Death of an American staple as a CEO tanks her own company.
company's CEO said the restaurant is no longer relevant.
Brutal.
Cracker Barrel, the Southern
Bro, I like Cracker Barrel.
country-themed restaurant with 662 locations
Damn.
across the nation, has been diminishing in popularity over the past decade, with its loyal clientele of elderly people failing to return after the pandemic. The business tanked even more when its chief executive, Julie Fels-Massino, told investors,
So,
"We're just not as relevant as we once were." Since the call, the 54-year-old company's shares fell by nearly 20%. On Thursday, Cracker Barrel traded as low as $45.35, a 52-week low that marked its lowest level in over a decade.
Brutal.
Here's an anecdote of a person from Canada who saw how women in the corporate
have a listen to this, folks.
world ruin companies from within. My last corporate job had a woman GM. She was given the job to fill the female leader illusion, which is a must in Canada. Meanwhile, all the men in the background were keeping the company running. She just took the credit. She was an arrogant, backstabbing feminist bully who wore a t-shirt and tight jeans in a business attire environment. Her bad decisions and leadership took her 2 years to run the company into the ground. She was also under investigation by the National HR Department because her pattern showed she got off on firing men for little things to soothe her ego.
Wow.
She ended up jumping ship and moved back to the US, never to be seen again. The damage she caused wasn't repairable, and the company doesn't exist today.
Wow.
Here's an example of a construction company ruined by another female. I worked for a company like this. It was a construction company. The owner retired and gave it to his gay daughter to run. She hired a lesbian woman with a gay son and put him in charge as well.
Just like she hired a gay daughter to run. She hired a lesbian woman with a gay son. What's next? He had like Leah Thomas is running this from NCAA. Like, I thought it was just going to keep getting weirder. And then his trans non-binary cousin came in and did the sales team.
They started hiring all of their friends and people aligned with DEI. They created an HR office run by an autistic feminist woman.
Ooh.
Soon, everything came to a halt. Suppliers pulled out because they were not paid on time. Architects did not answer RFIs because no one at the office could understand. Prints were outdated and never updated. Clients started noticing the lack of manpower and adherence to scheduling. The normal people left very fast, and the ones staying were too young, too gay, too many women without experience, and also a bunch of token races unable to do the work. They are now facing major lawsuits and liquidation damages, as well as lawsuits for defamation for each one of us who left and had our names tarnished. Never give in, fight back, and do not help this person.
Damn.
Here's a story from a guy who witnessed an unqualified woman taking over a job he was better suited for. A few years ago, a former colleague of mine asked for my resume because the company he was at needed someone with my skills and experience, and he, knowing what I could do, recommended me. A few months passed by, and I thought someone better might have taken the place. He eventually called me and apologized for not getting me that job. I told him not to worry since these things happen, but out of curiosity, I asked him who did they picked. He said they gave the job to a young woman. When I asked about her skill, he said that she had none. The boss picked her up because she had big hooters. I didn't bother to ask how things were at the business, since the stress in his voice was answered enough.
Wow.
Modern Woman and like a lot of the
David, not our village. It's 12 miles away. The men wanted an apology and explanation on why they hadn't bothered informing us. Two women moved the conversation. We'll get the rest of it in a minute. But you see the problem here? There's more. Do you want to hear any more?
feminist indoctrination, brainwashing, and American women with these like massive insecurity things. She's just saying like, well, I don't want men to be leader. That's basically what she's saying. She's like, I don't want men to be the leader. I don't like women can be leader too. Not even women can be leaders too, but she's saying like women can be better leaders in certain situations.
Companies are now
Really?
It's very, very.
Because men built the modern world that we live in. You know what I'm saying? Everything that we have today came from the ideation of a man. Literally everything. The phone, lights, houses. Like, name 5 female inventors. Don't worry, I'll wait. What's the first one? Madame Curie? Or
Oh, she didn't invent it. I think we've heard enough now. I get very frustrated with this buffering. But you get the point. You get the point. Men and women are not the same. It's the old communist lie of we're all the same, so we should all have the same, which is an intellectual lie and a cheat on the use of language. Rory saying regarding the Hooters, in my opinion, more than a handful is a waste. Well, I disagree with that, Rory. Any more than a mouthful is a waste. So, that's only a couple of examples there. What David is saying, that's why it's good to talk. My partner can see how they are using women to push a lot of these agendas, and it's not time. It's not me having a go at women. We are different and should champion those differences. I absolutely agree with that, David. My late wife Helen would say that we're equally different. That was what she would say. I agreed with that. Still do. And there's certain things that women are certainly not good at. Equally, there are things that men are not good at. That's back to this subtle abuse of language for propaganda reasons. The communists have always been very good at changing the language to suit their agenda. And it's a very, very subtle way it's all said. And that's one of their favourites, you know. We're all the same. Well, actually, we're not. We're not the same. And I think that's a good thing. And that's the way we were made. We're made in God's image by Him, by God. Thank you, David. Equally different. That's what we are. I saw that myself in many places that I worked in my lifetime. Now, I did most of my lifetime working lifetime was spent in unqualified labouring work, different types of factories and the like. And when I was in a cotton mill, I was in a few cotton mills, and you would see the girls on the spinning machines. They would be operating 400 bobbins. That's 100 each side, and they would have four sides, two machines. That'd be 400 bobbins. Bobbin would be about that. Oops, you can't see it. Well, do it that way. It would be, yeah, it'd be good. As wide as that screen, right? And each one of them would be spinning round, making up. Some in Paisley, David, and here in Greenock also, we had cotton mills. So, and they could do that, and they made it look effortless. You know, they didn't. It didn't seem to be harassed or flustered. I don't go. I don't agree with that. I don't like that at all. The letterbox, as Zangler says. I don't. I don't care for that mode of dress for women at all. I think for me, looking at it, obviously, I've never worn it, nor would I ever. It just looks oppressive, cumbersome. And I think that under certain circumstances, it's probably dangerous. Never realised there were cotton mills in Greenock too. A lot of my family grew up in Paisley. Some still live there. I lived in Paisley, David, and the rest of you. Um, just over 10 years I was in exile in Paisley and stayed very close to the mills, the cotton mills. Seat Hill Road, just off Seat Hill Road and Cochrane Street. I would agree with that, Hasdak. I definitely would agree with that. The cotton mills here, David, they were like everywhere else, including Paisley. Um, they were originally powered by waterfall, artificially created, by the way, for that purpose. Yeah, I wasn't far. I lived not too far from the original St Mirren football ground. You know, that's got to be opposed at every turn. Yeah, Love Street. I stayed in Greenock Road. We've already got that operating, by the way, folks, the Sharia law. There are parts of the country already operating that. They're allowed to do it, they get away with it. No interference. Good evening, Budgie. No, no, Glory. Have you seen the video of the Muslim woman trying to eat spaghetti whilst wearing a burqa and a full veil? What a oh God, yeah, it must be awful. No, the Coates family didn't own the ones down here. I'm trying to picture this image of spaghetti eating shrimp, wearing the whole regalia, you know. Holy moly. No, the Coates family did not own the ones down here. I think they owned enough up there. What was it, 6? I worked in the Fergusley ones, not the Seed Hill Road factories, and they were exactly the same as the ones that were down here. You know, in structure, style, machinery, exactly the same. But it was the girls who operated the machines. Men were generally the labourers to the girls. They earned more money than the men. Rory, you're going to have to pay reparations to the pickers of cotton. What is this establishment of the Church of England? Well, that's them that's doing it. They're doing it to themselves. I did indeed. I did indeed. I have a lifetime interest in astronomy. It's a hobby of mine. One of my hobbies when I was a boy. Made my own telescope following the instructions of the late Patrick Moore, or should I say Sir Patrick Moore. And yeah, I was up there. I enjoyed my stay in Paisley, I must say. When I went up there at first, what would that be, 1971, I went to Paisley to live. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was, I thought, quite a beautiful town. Had Paisley Abbey, actually had an abbey, some beautiful churches built by the Coates family, by the way, and great library, museum, the whole works. There's plenty of employment, lots of small engineering places, Brown and Paulson. I think they made, was it marmalade they made at one point as well? Robinson's, yeah, sure they had a place up there. Loved it. Really great. And I had a not a bad wee flat in Cotton Street. Not Cotton Street, Cochrane Street rather. My partner loves Patrick Moore. She works in science, but of an original. Well, that was one of my many hobbies as a wee boy growing up. And obviously, when I went to live in Paisley and discovered they had an observatory, well, it was destiny. I was going to go. Of course, I was going to go and see it. But sadly, like everywhere else in Scotland and ultimately the rest of the British Isles, Scotland was decimated by Thatcher and company. And the town is an empty shell now. The Muslims are being moved in this area more and more every day, says Treble M. Oh, he certainly was that. Oh, Patrick. I take it you know, of course, that Sir Patrick Moore began his career as a writer of fiction. He wrote fiction books. Anglo, there's a Coates family from Stoke. They own the club and are worth 10 billion via Bet365. I think there's one of them in this town, one of these 365 joints. So I found Patrick Moore through his science fiction books. They were boy adventure books that he used to write. Can you still buy coats, cotton reels? Well, if you did, you'd be on a Klondike there. You might get one in some little odd shop someplace, travelling, but not per se, I don't think. A place where there was four of these factories across from where I used to live. They were demolished, and of course, houses were put up in their place. No, Rory, that was not one of my hobbies. Rory's asking, dear John, did you ever collect the gollywogs on the jars of Robinson's jam and get some money back? No, but when I went to college to study photography, one of my classmates did. He collected that. But what he did was he converted the little gollywog label. You collected so many of them. I can't remember how many you collected, and sent them off to the factory, and they would send you back a metal badge, a gollywog badge, and there were different types. The gollywog was dressed in different clothes, and that became a real collector's item. These gollywog badges, and this fella I was in college with, he had a huge collection of these gollywog badges. I'll look for some of his work, John, make a nice present for my partner. Well, he wrote a series of science fiction books, and the thing was that these books all contained the same characters. And if memory serves, which I'm sure it's not accurate, but I think these characters had a secret base for their spaceship in Scotland someplace. And they would take off from this base. Now, I might be getting him confused with another fella called Angus McVicker. He was another writer and had the same premise for his novels. Again, it was boy adventure books. His series of books were The Lost Planet. Is that right, Trevor? The gollywog badges are worth about 12 quid each, says Trevor. If I ever come across these, I don't have any of these books, David. I just don't. I read them all via the library, junior library when I was a member. Didn't take me long to read through his whole collection. But that's how he got started. And of course, he didn't hold any qualifications in astronomy either, but was recognised as an authority. In fact, if William's interested, if we've still got William with us, if you watch the astronauts giving the press conference after they come back supposedly from the moon, the Patrick Moore gets to ask questions. Hiya, Julia, nice to see you here. Oh, you're still here, right? So if you watch this press conference with these astronauts, wait until it comes to Sir Patrick Moore and he gets his questions, because he puts them on the spot. He doesn't know it, of course. He's asking legitimate questions, but his legitimate questions, they cannot answer. And it becomes all very awkward. And you see the microphone getting taken away from him because he's put them on the spot. And his questions is all about the star constellations. So you know the piece I'm talking about then, William. And they whip the mic away from him. And it's hugely telling, because they can't say anything about Patrick Moore. He's the authority here. And these three men up on the stage, they're looking at one another and they don't know how to answer it. And that's what they answered. We couldn't see any stars. I don't think we've seen it. Did we see any stars? I don't think we saw any. And this is what they're doing. David's saying, funny you mention that. My partner talks of Patrick Moore question to them gave the game away. Well, it does. But of course, he's innocent. He doesn't know any better. He's asking quite legitimate questions. What you would expect Patrick Moore to ask. I think he must have known, William. And the reason I say that is not because of what happens on that day. Okay? Somewhere along the line, somebody must have come knocking at his door. And I'll tell you why I say that is because I used to watch Patrick Moore's show at Sky at Night. Now, if you know anything about that show, you'll know that Patrick Moore went on there, no script. Most of the time, he didn't know what he was going to talk about, but knew enough, and he would just talk. And he had Neil Armstrong on his show, and there was no awkward questions. It was all skipped round. So between when the conference took place and the time he appears on his show, Patrick Moore is in on it, I think. David's talking to William. It was my partner says he knew as well the way they answered. She has worked in physics for 20 odd years. That's what I think. Somewhere along the line, he was probably paid off. Because when Neil Armstrong appears on his little show, it's just the two of them, and there's absolutely no awkwardness at all. But that day, it just comes out of the blue. Nobody expected it, of course. And they could not give him questions to ask, being who he was. Williams saying there has been expert statement analysis of the interview Armstrong done with Patrick, and it concluded that Neil was lying or withholding information. Yeah, I saw it myself. I used to watch his show. And the reason I say that Patrick Moore was in on it is because if there is, I mean, my memory's not good enough anymore to say that I remember any awkwardness between the two of them. But if there were any awkwardness there, Patrick Moore lets him off the hook. But it was certainly that there on that day at the conference, as I'm sure you know, well, you probably watched that tape endlessly. Julia, my granddad was a nuclear scientist, and he told me back then that they needed to be in a rocket with 6-foot lead walls. Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, because you've got the radiation barrier all the way around in every direction. That's the giveaway. We can never escape from this place unless we find a whole new technology, you know, something like you see on Star Trek. You know, the transporter beam. It would take something like that. Might not even work, but William, I first thought that Patrick knew by his facial expressions and his eyes in the interview he done with Neil. He knew for sure. Well, I'm going to take your word for it, William, because my memory isn't clear enough on the interview. I remember it was done, and I know I did watch it at the time. But I'm sure he didn't know when they were doing the press conference. David is saying it was a major factor in removing religion from people's minds. Science became the new religion, or bought and paid for science, that is. Oh, it was a big step in removing God from the center of the universe. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. That's why it was so important, or one of the many reasons why it was so important. And as far as I am personally concerned, I was too busy in my pop group in those days when they were launching the Apollo rockets. So I only ever saw that stuff when it appeared on the 6 o'clock news on the BBC, because I was, on my way out of the house going off to play someplace. So I assumed, incorrectly as it turned out, I assumed that they had solved the radiation problem because nobody ever mentioned it. Robert Ingram is saying, wish you would do Mandela before and after A1 tests, William, after jail and after the effect. Check out the top 50 emergency airplane landings that prove flat Earth. That would be a good shout. What Robert's suggesting. The Mandela before and after A1 test, William. I don't know that at all. And I've already told you all that I have personally asked pilots on my way to Spain, before we took off, that is, about this navigation. And they told me, every one of them, that navigation by pilots is done via the ground, not by some mysterious mathematic calculations via satellites spinning round the Earth. A relative of mine was also a nuclear scientist. He was awarded an OBE for his work in Iran. Just before he died, he told me that he had advised them, the Iranians, on their nuclear weapons program. I'm sure they have it. And Julia is saying nearly all retired pilots believe in flat Earth. I mean, ultimately, I presented these pilots with a little map of my own, just to make sure that my understanding of what was being said was correct. And it was. And they had just never thought of it. What I said to them was, obviously, I could only do this in that short period of time while we were waiting for the plane to be made ready for takeoff, right? So it was a short period of time I had, and I would go up and ask. And I went up and said, one of the times I went up and said, all right, I might be squandering this opportunity, but I'm going to ask it this way. So I said, am I right in thinking that, and I'm being a bit rough and ready with this, we are going to get up into the air about 35,000 feet in the air. We're going to then turn south and we're going to head down the country, sort of in the middle. And when we get to London, we're going to do a bit of a left-hand turn here and then cross France, then across Spain, and eventually the Mediterranean Sea will be beneath us and we will come to the island. And they said, yeah, roughly. That's how it is. Yeah. I said, well, if the Earth is moving at 1,000 miles an hour, 1,000 miles in an hour, the island shouldn't be there when we arrive because it's going to take us 2.5 hours, roughly, to get from Glasgow to Mallorca, Palma. I says, why is the island always there when we arrive? It should be surely way off, hundreds of miles off to the south, to the east. They just looked at me as though I had said something crazy. In a way, I had, of course, said something crazy. But the point I'm trying to make to you is these men, as professional pilots in charge of hundreds of people's safety, had not ever considered the idea that the island wouldn't be there when we arrived, using their calculations on their maps. Just never occurred to them. Why would it? Well, there you go. I can tell you that I did that to prove to me, one way or the other, how did these pilots navigate? How did we do it on the sea? Well, I know how we do it on the sea. It's roughly the same manner that we do it in the air. And that's a damn good question, Julia, which I have no answer for. I have no answer for that at all. But I definitely take the point. According to what they told us, especially during the 50s and the 60s, when they told us, and they did tell us, that radioactive material lasted forever, almost. And if it lasted forever, as you rightly point out, why are there people living in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? I honestly, it never occurred to me, that one. That just did not occur to me. So that was brought to my attention by Dale in Beyond the Imaginary Curve. Just never occurred to me. But of course, that puts paid to the whole idea of what we've been told about radiation and radioactive materials. So I don't know, perhaps Hasdak is correct. Perhaps these were just gigantic firebombs. I don't know. I just don't know. Anything, David's saying, anything involving fear is a scam and all invisible. What are and all invisible? What are the chances, whether it be COVID or climate change or nukes, they control folk by fear? Well, putting it that way, I think that's a It's a very, very good way of putting it. It's a very strong case that you're making there, David. I'm certainly not going to disagree with anything that you've said, because I'm not. But the two Japanese cities I never gave a thought to. No, I know, Julia. I mean, you're quite right. Why would a plane flying from Brazil to New Zealand make an emergency landing in Alaska? And that's also true. Although a lot of it is deserted, let's be honest about it. Well, I knew it was Alaska you meant. Really? Really, David? Yeah. Every eyewitness just about to Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a Jesuit priest. I agree with that. Well, if we look at what you're asking, Anglo, from a different point of view, that's the way I'm going to look at it. Anglo is asking Hiroshima and Nagasaki, was it a war crime? Two war crimes. Surely Dresden was a war crime he's adding into the mix. Well, I'm looking at it from a different point of view. I'll start with Dresden. Now, I've got David Irving's book on the subject. It just happens to be here. That's all it's about. Some horrific photographs in this, but he goes into great detail on that subject. Where is your anyway, I can't find it. It seems to have gone somewhere. Anyway, the point being, Dresden was a war crime. Dresden, if you don't know, before the war and essentially during the war, was a place that made fine bone china. That's what it was known for. High quality china goods, cups and saucers and all that sort of stuff, vases. That's what it was. It did not make anything to do with war. It was populated at that time, before it was bombed, because where it was geographically, troops from all the theatres of war were pouring in to Dresden. So it had all sorts of people there, German troops, POWs, etc., Russian troops, etc., etc., etc. And Churchill decided that he was going to bomb the crap out of this place and did so. So it's a definite war crime. I would also consider that the two Japanese cities were also war crimes. And they're more horrific in some level when you consider the flimsy way that the Japanese people built their dwelling houses, bamboo and almost paper mache, almost. Um, so I would go along with the idea that these are war crimes, but of course it's the usual. The Japanese lost the war along with Germany and Italy, so they don't have a say in the matter. So it's not considered a war crime by the victors. I would say that it is. Finally got it. So that's my opinion on it, Anglo. I would say that these three cities being the revenge that was dealt out to them, and that's what it was, were war crimes. And when you read that book, if you've not read it, it goes into great detail as to why the whole bombing of Germany itself was tantamount to war crimes because of the way they did it and how they managed to get the men, the British guys, the Canadian guys, and all the other guys, how they managed to get those fellas into the aeroplanes to go and do it. It's quite awful. Absolutely. Can't disagree with that. William, there is a good X-Files episode that There's a good X-File episode that points to the fear factor and control via subliminal messaging. Yeah, I'm sure there is. Sure it's used, was used, and still is. When a person is in the fear state, you make wrong decisions. You're more likely to follow the herd, says David. It also makes you ill. High cortisone levels, which fear produces, makes you ill if prolonged. That's correct, Julia. That's the whole problem. As I've said for many years, long before I ever came near the internet, well, how come nobody has stood in trial since the Germans? That whole thing about Nuremberg was nothing more than Jewish revenge. And you know that once you realize or understand that all the enlistment books, the books that men got when they enlisted in the army or any of the forces, were all changed. The wording were all changed to remove what was in there so that the Germans could not use the defense that I was following orders, because the same thing was in every military man's handbook of rules. And David agrees with us. Of course they are, Julia. Anglo, 40,000 dead Brit civilians during the whole war. 40,000 dead in 2 nights over Dresden, I believe. Something like that. It's a horrendous number. Horrendous number. It's a difficult read, to be honest with you, the book, but I'm glad I bought it. I like that, Robert. Churchkill. Has anyone read what the German government had to say about the Jews? Says Julia. They were trying the same collective lobbying tricks back then. Oh, it's awful. It's really awful, David. It traumatized me for a while when I saw and heard what happened in Dresden. Was in tears watching. Oh, it's dreadful. Do you know that, folks, if you don't know this, I mean, just think about this for a minute, okay? Not only did they do what they did on Dresden, but they actually firebombed the zoo and killed the animals in the zoo. Apparently, I had this quite well-known zoo. Yeah, it was quite well known in Europe at the time, and they bombed that as well, deliberately. And the tactics were always the same in these fire bombings. First thing they knocked out was the water supplies. I don't need to say any more than that. Julia is saying, I've spent the last few weeks reading letters and diaries from the work camps. I haven't heard that one, Julia. Putin said the Nazis won the war. America are the Nazis. Well, again, Gavin, I would certainly agree. Shot and all in Iraq was a war crime. Yeah, we don't know the half of what went on there. I would agree with that also. Robert is saying some of them have been doing it for over 2,000 years. Yeah, let us not forget Hamburg. Oh, as Anglo says, let us not forget Hamburg. And it had a real pasting from day one. As soon as he came to power, it was given a real pasting right through the war. Rory, Basil Fawlty, well, I'm just get your orders, which must be obeyed at all times without question. I don't know that quote, Rory. Orders. It's more like, isn't it? Orders. Thousands of German civilians went to Dresden because they thought it would get bombed, as there was no military strategic reason for firebombing Dresden. It was a sacrifice of white Europeans. Yes, a fire sacrifice. They were burned. Well, that's another one, Budgie. As if bombs weren't enough. Have you seen the effects of depleted uranium? Well, that's what David Irving calls it, a holocaust, a true holocaust. Awful. I mean, man's inhumanity to man. Julia, the Jews have been kicked out of 109 countries. 1030 times, 1,030 times since the religion's conception. Well, you see, those days have come to an end, Julia. Because the world can now see what they are. They've taken the mask off quite publicly. They must obviously feel very secure. But they will never, in my opinion, be able to play the victim ever again. Quite right, Robert. That's quite correct, which is the actual meaning of Holocaust, burnt offering. In all but name. Well, in Dresden, it was a burnt offering. And it is a large number. I can't remember exactly what the number is, but it's not far short of 40,000. If it is that, it could even be more. See if I can see it anywhere. Yeah. They had to force the RAF guys to go in those planes, you know, because they were so sickened by what they were doing. Yeah, Mr. Irving made an awful lot of enemies when he wrote this book. That's for sure. I don't know how well you'll see this. It says the horses blink and turn away. The bodies were cremated in the open air because there was nothing else to do with them. It's horrific. It's the night shots. The candles of doom, he calls this. These are the records, how they were kept, you know, for the bombers. And of course, there was no Luftwaffe to go up and try and do anything. There's a photograph of a child hanging on to its parent. I think it's a man. I'm not sure. Could be a granddad or an uncle. This man over here, he's carrying a child. Oh yeah, they forced them. They forced them and threatened them with dishonourable discharge if they refused to go in the planes. The men were sick, as you can well imagine, because as you've all, well, not all of you, but it's remarkable how clearly you can see from a few thousand feet up. But governments are still allowing them to do what they are doing, John says Hasdak. Yeah, the whole world can see exactly who the villains are now. And they'll never be able to hide this and never be able to escape it, and nor should they. And it's same as this. Gavin and Hasdak's talked about UK giving Ukrainian depleted uranium weapons. Yeah, we did that. We've done that. Well, not you and I, but these demons have done it on our behalf. I don't think I'm exaggerating or being melodramatic when I use the term demons, because that's what they are. Well, that's what they did. They forced the men to do it. Because how can you? It's not war. If you're flying over a town in Germany that has got nothing to do with making bombs or bullets or tanks or anything like that, it's not involved, and it's got no real protection, and you're firebombing it. It doesn't take much to look down and know that there are children and women and old folk being burned alive, and you're the one that's doing it. Julia, I've seen drawings and read diaries of both guards, soldiers, and Jews huddled together in bomb shelters. Yeah. At the end of the war, there was over 6,000 Jewish people living in Berlin. Anglo is asking, are we in the minority about Dresden and Hamburg, or the people just don't know? I'm sorry to say, Anglo, I believe it's they don't know. This is a kind of slightly deeper, and I use that deliberately, that term, slightly deeper historical facts that you've got to look out, or you may accidentally stumble over it, but most of the time you've got to be on the lookout for this stuff. I mean, I'm going to assume that you've got a similar background to me, in the sense that I wanted to find out what actually went on during the war. So I went a looking. I've been looking a long time. I'm going to assume that you are similar. And ever since we've made the German folk bow down and apologize and be subjugated as a people, absolutely, yeah. I've met a few Germans in my time, and I've been fortunate. I've visited. I managed to visit Germany for a couple of days on a bus tour. Oh, what a place! Yeah, the little I saw, and yeah, they're all apologetic, and I'm forever. Well, when I get the opportunity, I say, you get nothing to apologise for, and they haven't. In my book, they don't. NATO used depleted uranium on the Serbs in the 1990s. Well, I didn't know that. Oh yeah, it wasn't just the one attack. I was like, no, you're quite right. No, but that by the time they get to Dresden at the end of the war, this whole method has been perfected. It's an art form now, and what they did and what they had evolved very quickly was they would go over, pick a town, so let's say it's town 8. Well, let's use Dresden then. So what they would do is they would send over spotter aircraft. So they would have aerial maps, as you could see from little bits of photograph I was able to show you. So they've got the photographic stuff. So they know where the railway stations are, where they see the lines. They know where the roads are. They know where the housing is. They know where the water supplies are. So what's the first thing they hit? Well, the first thing they hit is the water supplies to make sure that the whole fire service is disrupted. At the very least, it's completely disrupted. At best, it's not going to work because there's nothing to work. It's been totally destroyed. And then they come in with the bombs. Whoosh, over they go. They do that until there are no bombs. Then they fly away. And as they're flying away, the second wave is waiting. And the second wave waits until the victims begin to leave their shelters and hiding places. And that's down to a fixed time. They've got this all measured out. And then the second wave comes in. But the people are already out trying to find relatives and find out if their house is still standing, etc., etc. So it comes again and they get it again. And that pattern was used in city and town all through Germany. And all it did, really, apart from kill a lot of German people, it stiffened the resistance. When the German people saw and experienced what was happening, they were frightened, terrified to give up, so they fought on. They didn't fight on because they were encouraged. Well, of course they were encouraged by the German government, of course they were, but that's not what kept them fighting on. It was what the Allies were doing with the bombing. My partner said when she met some Germans in Germany, they apologized for the war, just weirded her out at the time, she said. It just weirded her out at the time. Yeah, I found the same thing. These were young men, like early 20s. Yeah, it had nothing to do with the war. It was their grandparents, not them. This is the way they've been victimized up here. Bomber Harris, criminal, not a hero. Absolutely. Absolutely. Him and Churchill, two of them. That's what they've done in Palestine. I assume that's what you mean, Julia, Palestine. I was in Berlin in 1990, says Budgie, just after the wall came down. They were selling bits of the wall in plastic bags. Capitalism arrived to the east. Yeah, that's true. When I went there, where I was, there was a bit of the wall still standing, but it was deliberately left up as an awful memory to the past. Grasping a quick way to say weapons contracts should be sold under clauses whereby the remainder can be reclaimed after one example of such misuse. That's an interesting point of view, Robert. Oh, that's for sure. Only the people can make that happen. The authorities never will sell. No, that's very, very true. It's very true. And the trouble is, we'll never really get to the bottom of that war. Well, thank you, Mazdak. Glad you enjoyed it. We will never let them forget what they have done in Palestine. Never. The world will never let them forget. The mask is off, and it will stay off. So, folks, I shall, with God's grace, be here on Friday. I've got the hospital on Thursday to see my consultant and find out what state I'm in. And find out what's going to happen next as far as treatment's concerned. I'd love to go to Germany. I even spoke of it to my partner. Not now with the migrant madness, though, just wouldn't be the same. I hope they can survive as a people, just like us, but they have a fight. They will survive, David. I'm confident, just as we will. That's very true, Gavin, but the mask is off finally. They can no longer expect or hope that the other people will believe the humble facade that they have played for the last 2,000 years. Well, thank you, Robert. I don't know what is going to be said to me. All I can tell you folks is what you tell me. And that is, I feel okay. I know I've got cancer and I'll always have that, but I do feel okay. And you folks tell me I look okay. So we'll just have to wait and see what the doctor has to say about it all. I'll let you know on Friday, of course. So anyway, as always, thank you all for being here. This audience, thank you, Hasdak. This audience is getting smaller, but never mind. As I like to say, adios, au revoir, cheerio, and until Friday evening, 9 o'clock, goodbye for now, and I will look out for your letter, Trevor M. Enjoy the music, and we'll hopefully all meet again on Friday.
Silently the snow falls, paints a winter scene, swiftly spreads the dark rim hides a fading autumn green. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, conjure friendships dear to me. Lightly now the breeze flows, disturbing more than just the leaves. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow. Patiently the love grows, lifts the weary heart. Gently now she holds me, melts two worlds once apart. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, usher dreams of you and me. Softly then the breeze blows, disturbing more than just the trees.
All together now.
But love's much more
So much more
than we can know.
than we can ever possibly know,
We are one small glow
but an important flow.
in the eternal flow. Melodies of long ago, songs of innocence, harmonies to soothe the soul, past the consequence. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, awakening joys of you and me. Silently the snow falls, bringing winter symphony.
All together now.
But we're much more
So much more
than we can know.
than we can ever possibly know,
We are one small glow
but an important glow.
in the eternal flow. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow.
Okay, folks, you take care. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll speak soon. Bye just now. Yes, Steve, God willing, we'll see each other on Friday. Bye just now. Take care.